your story is about a specific one of these, I guess you would call them like, cash buyer companies for homes. Will you just like give us a broad overview of that industry and maybe delineate it from, all the other sort of players in that market, like the Rocks and others?
Yeah, it's definitely a crowded market. But so HomeVestors of America is the company that Byard and I looked at, and it is a franchising company that allows business owners to buy franchises to flip houses. So we're talking about the real estate investors who go and look for quote unquote distressed properties. They'll buy the house for under market value. Sometimes they'll do work and resell it at a higher value. We can get into some of the more complicated ways they do these deals, but they're generally smaller businesses, LLCs, kind of like if you think about a McDonald's franchise, this is a house flipping franchise. And that's different than the big institutional investment firms have been coming up and buying, whole swaths of neighborhoods and often offering, pretty close to market value. These people are out looking for a deal to flip houses.
Byard, why do they need franchises? Like, I mean, what is the value if I have the brand I buy ugly houses as opposed to I'm just an LLC with cash? Do they get cash from the home office, I guess?
I think HomeVestors would say that the most attractive draw of becoming a franchise is the sort of built-in infrastructure that they provide. They have a very large and very sophisticated advertising apparatus that helps novice franchises, people who are new to the house flipping space find leads. I think that they're also pretty proud of the training that they provide to franchises. And we can kind of get into the finer grain details of what that training teaches exactly. But they're a company that's claimed to professionalize the real estate investment industry, and they would say set themselves apart from all the different gurus and, like you mentioned, the Rocks and places like that.
I mean, as you're telling me the things that the company provides to their franchisees, those are all the bullet points of the problems that you found, right? I mean, when you talk about like the advertising and the targeting of where you're getting it and the approach that they use to close these deals, those are the two big elements that seem to be problematic. Anjeanette, why don't you like sort of fill in the details of what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I mean, the branding is exactly what you're getting if you're buying a franchise, right? Like, if you're going to McDonald's, what kind of a hamburger you're getting. HomeVestors spends a lot of money. Well, specifically, their franchise owners spend an awful lot of money on this advertising. So that if you have even an inkling that you might want to sell your home, they might be the first company that you think of because of that brand and all of the investment in that brand. Where their approach has become problematic, when you talk to HomeVestors, they'll say they target their advertising around particular houses that would be a good investment. But what we found is that those houses often are owned by people in vulnerable or even desperate situations. And beyond just targeting a particular type of house, an older house, a house that the owner probably has a significant amount of equity in, a smaller house, and usually in kind of that mid-price point range. They also direct marketing. They teach their franchise owners to build relationships with people that might have contact with others in vulnerable situations. So nursing home administrators, or divorce lawyers or probate lawyers, in order to reach those people who might be in a position to need to sell their house quickly.
Byard, the idea of a homeowner having lots of equity, presumably that's so that why is that of value to We Buy Ugly Homes?
I think it makes it just a more attractive sale for the homeowner because they're not sort of making the calculation of how much equity they still have to pay off, and the whole point basically of going after these homes and trying to buy them at a discount is that you're able to offer somebody perhaps a price that looks quite impressive to them at the time if they don't fully understand the value of their home. And they're not perhaps thinking in the back of their mind of how much of their home's value they still have to pay off.
So in other words, if I bought the home in 1965 for $24,000 or something, and I still owe, and maybe I took a second mortgage out or something, but if I owe a significant portion of that, the $40,000 they offer me today would set off a red flag. But if I'm completely paid off and I have had no reason to assess the value of my home in the past, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years, then, whatever they offer me may sound good. And that's how they're getting there's two different things it seems like they're taking advantage of. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Byard, but one is just sort of like asymmetrical market awareness. And then the other one is like people either in desperate situations or not with their full faculties.
That's correct. Yeah. And to start, there's an even more dramatic example in our reporting. We highlighted the case of an elderly woman outside of Los Angeles who had bought her home in 1961. And I think was presented by a HomeVestors franchise with a price of $275,000. The home was paid off, and $275,000 is a lot of money. The home ultimately was worth about $510,000. Meanwhile, this person, had dementia. Her family tried to cancel the sale. The litigation dragged on for years and years, and it's still going. That began in 2016. To your point about information asymmetry, you're absolutely right about that. People get bombarded with these flyers. Sometimes they get phone calls, text messages, and to the untrained person, somebody who's not tremendously savvy in real estate, somebody who approaches you about buying or selling your home, you might logically infer that they're some sort of licensed real estate agent if they're interested in your home and interested in transacting over property. But the fact of the matter is there's a huge constellation of real estate investors out there, HomeVestors being arguably the largest player, of people who aren't licensed and whose duties to the people that they interact with, the homeowners that they interact with, are a lot different than licensed real estate agents' duties are.